think we're all lucky that there are 3 introducers who do this all night.
Right.
Well, as a member of the Hartford Writer Circle, I am very pleased to have the honor of introducing Karen. But it's not just because I'm a member of the committee that I wanted to do so. It's because we have shared some very interesting moments and adventures in the last few years. Karen and I used to share an office, and I learned a few things about her during our shared office time. One of the things I noted was that students popped in regularly to visit with her. It wasn't just to ask for help or advice. It was to say a friendly hello, to see how she's doing, to share stories of their summer or their latest romance, whatever it was. She just demonstrated that she got along so well with students. And I know that isn't just a flash of the pen, because she has become constant friends with many students from the past. They stay, they come back to her. I also noticed when we shared an office that Karen's desk was really full. Lots of papers, lots of books. And I realized that she had many irons in the fire. I was always amazed at how she managed to know which iron to finish one project, to end it finished, and move on to the next. If I might mix a metaphor here, let's go from iron in the fire to hat. Karen's a lot of hats. As a writer, she's a poet, a short story writer, an essayist, a research writer. I think the list goes on. I could see her column in the paper once in a while, one of the local presses. Perhaps the hat that she wears that drew me to Karen in the first place was one that we sort of share. It's a hat for drama. And Karen and I have shared a lot of moments with drama. Strange moments. From, 2 irascible old people swearing at each other over a gin game, to a strange, dysfunctional family history of characters named Beth and Boo. And perhaps most delightful of all, we got to be 2 sister spinsters who spent their days killing lonely old men out of kindness. But our last show together, I believe, I was astounded when I saw the poster for that, because the poster depicted Karen looking so gorgeous and so thrilled when Axe about ready to chop my head off. That's okay. She didn't chop my head off. Karen, it's been a delight, and I am so happy to introduce you to this group here tonight. Please welcome warmly a very wonderful person, Dr. Karen Foster.
Thank you for coming. I'm going to start reading a little bit of fiction. Between the years 1995 and 2002, I owned a strange motel north of Omaha, Nebraska. It was probably the worst decision I ever made, and probably the best decision I ever made. It was small enough that there was a crazy character that came and went, and we were full most of the time. And during the downtimes, I was able to write some short stories. I had about over 200 pages worth. I would go to work, I lived in Omaha, go to work at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln in the morning, go to a motel in the afternoon, stay until 9 or 10 o'clock, do the same thing again and again and again. And then after University of Nebraska-Lincoln, I was asked to teach full-time at Midland, did the same thing. Well, one of the stories won a contest put on by the Omaha Arts Council. It was judged by the Tassar Literary Agency out of New York, and it was published then. And I just got notice yesterday that an online journal has published it called Tower Journal, and I'm supposed to give you a heads up for that. So one of the stories that I wrote was called The Semi. I read it at Fargo for Art Humanities, I think it was. But the story took off in my mind. I could never really just let it sit there. So what I've done is started a novel on it, and I will pick it up kind of sort of in the beginning and then see if you enjoy it. There are 3 main characters, actually 4. But we won't meet the fourth one. There's Maureen is the main character, and I'll tell you how it all happened, and this is true. Most of my stories are either 95% true or 5% true. I'm going to tell you which is which. I was at the motel about 8 or 9 o'clock at night. The sun had gone down, and these 2 young men dressed in suits. They looked like twin brothers. They came in, and they said, "Would you please call the police?" I said, "What's the matter?" "Just please call police right away. Please call police." And I said, "I need to know what's going on." And he said, "Ma'am, listen, go outside and listen." And I heard this man screaming at the end of the intersection where the Highway 30 and the road that comes out of Omaha. I'm not going to tell you what happened, but he's a later character. His wife's name, however, is Maureen, but she has parents. and we're going to meet them first. They live in Kentucky. I'm going to read two short scenes that will probably take about 10 minutes. The first one that's talking is Delia, the mother. Chucky is her father. When Delia said yes, yes in her mind, and I will obey to the judge, the standard phrase that thrilled young girl's heart, she knew that her father would recognize that switch in allegiance. And she did obey Chuck most of the time about most things. Those things she didn't, like not spending too much. More than likely her husband never knew. About the time she bought another pair of fancy platform heels, saving up grocery money. Some she kept to herself, never daring to tell him. The time Darnell saw her cornered in the gas station restroom on their way to Nashville, pushing her against a stall's door after he had wedged the bathroom door shut with a pocket knife. Her new husband was asleep in the back seat from too much beer. When she came out of the stall, she was surprised to see Darnell blocking the door. Over 6 feet he was, burly, with arms full of dark hair. A cigarette pack was rolled up in a cap sleeve of his t-shirt. She noticed, from that distance, grooves in the tips of his fingers, deep in the nail bed, full of oil and grease, she supposed. "What you doing?" she asked him. He goose-stepped her back into the stall, up against the wall. The door banged, cracked against the side. Leah laughed, thinking that he must be teasing her. But then he pressed his chest against her, hard enough for her to have difficulty breathing. At the same time, he bunched up her skirt rough against her and dug his fingers into her sex. "Darnell, no," she said, as her legs attempted to take her somewhere. But he looked down from above her with a grin that frightened her soul. She felt thin as a frog. The door banged and banged as he spread her legs and raised her high. "Drilling you," he whispered into her ear, right before he groaned like a hog. When it was finished, he reached over beside her and tore off a stretch of toilet paper, wiped his penis on before sticking it back into his pants. After he chucked her under her chin, tweaked her nose as one would a kid with candy, and nodded. "I don't give a shit if you tell your old man," he said. Darnell hitched up his jeans, removed the pocket knife, peeked out the girl's bathroom door to see if the way was clear for escape, and left. Delia stood in the stall's doorway, not realizing until he was gone that her skirt was still crunched up in places. Her underpants was round on ankle, ripped. It seemed to swirl like foam around the pipe. She stepped out of the stained white lace and closed tight the stall's door, making sure it was latched, and sat down on the stool. She wiped away the semen that dripped between her legs. The flesh on her inner thighs was red as if she had her period. She placed her hands there and felt the heat and the roughness. She flushed the stool once, then once more after cleaning herself off again. She couldn't decide what to do. If she should flee, go screaming through the gas station, making the truck drivers blanch with shame for her. She thought about it, and her and Chuck's lives so far, not married yet a year, just 7 months since last July. What if he were sitting braced in the back seat, wondering what took her so long? What if Darnell punched him away, bragging about porking his wife? "How long are you going to be in there?" came a sweet voice right outside the door. "The other one ain't working right." "I'm done," Delia said. She pulled down her skirt and took her clutch purse where it had dropped on the floor. She watched her purse again fall from her hand, almost like a feather, she thought. She reached down again and with fingers like water grabbed it up once more. She picked up her underpants and wadded it as she would a hanky. She put the purse under an arm and left the stall. She could not even look at the woman who exchanged place with her. She remembered she was taller than most men, but when she slid past, Delia saw that her hair draped to the small of her back. The muscles in her calves that peeked up from under her fluffed skirt were thick like softballs. Delia remembered staring at the closed stall door, wondering if that woman who had latched the door behind her ever had sex forced on her. Delia pushed the wad of pennies between the swinging doors of the garbage can, reached far down to the mass of paper towels, past the bloody sanitary pad, seeping through toilet paper. Later, she often remembered that when she stood before the bathroom mirror, the wall behind her, with a lime green line that weaved across its length, looked like something out of a flapping end of a futuristic movie, all white and bright, so like this, she thought. She stared at herself, noticing that her mouth was set. Her hair mussed. She noted that one shoulder was lower than the other, that her chin jutted out, that the hairdresser who gave her her last permanent didn't wrap some curls right. She could not collect herself at first to comb through her hair, but she thought that she'd better. Later on, about 7 years later, 6, 7 years later, the day that Chucky died, Delia was down at the Pack and Save, filling up a flatbed cart with half cases of corn, artichokes that he was going to mix with green beans, some okra, a cellophane sack of walnut pieces for brownies, lard, and chocolate chips, toilet paper, Betty Crocker cake mixes, ivory soap. She remembered that something stopped her in the midst of turning the car down the canned fruit aisle. She should have picked up some fruit cocktail and mandarin oranges for the jello Chucky liked to make. She stared ahead at the sacks of half cases, the pillars of White Cloud, the oversized jars of mayonnaise and pickles, and thought to herself, she's going to need all this. She must have stared at the goods for a considerable time, for a lady behind her said pointedly, "What's she going to get?" before Delia had the sense to move. But Delia didn't move then. The sight of something drew her eye heavenward, towards the ceiling with its steel beams. She thought she saw the tail feathers of a goose disappear behind duckwork. Dia quickly pushed the cart to the left so the lady could pass Huffin. Well, I'm there. Dia looked up again, but nothing. Not even anything that could resemble something flying, like a banner announcing a sale, or a Christmas decoration floating wacky in off-season. It was August 15th. School kids were in stores shopping for fancy jeans and Jordans. Vacationers in motorhomes argued as they sat along the roads, getting lost occasionally. Motorcyclists in wolf packs weaved through traffic, sitting back as on recliners, their hands curved around leather handlebars, the rhythm of the road vibrating their bodies into an easy sense of security. One last trip before Labor Day that marked the end of the summer. Truck stood under the propped, open overhead door of the shop, a large white cement block building that he had built behind the house with his own hands, 2 years after Maureen was born. He noticed that the crack in the cement undulating from front to back was getting wider. He had patched that crack often, but decided that he hadn't put the footings deep enough, nor laid enough gravel down when he first built the shop to keep it from shifting from the mines miles deep. Someday, he was told, the whole city of Stuffville would traverse on the labyrinthian series of shafts like pinballs, one building after another, resting deep in the bowels to once again be ground to coal, with maybe a few nuggets of gold thrown in, which are loose in the teeth of some of those who once lived there. At least that's what Looney Jim had once while musing over the foam of his spear. But Chuck knew that his little barge would be tipped kitty wampus into that last shaft, wedged in there like a piston. The 49 Packard hanging from the ceiling just as it was now, a fine specimen being stored. Its gray solid panels rusting once again. The fender braced against the right wall would be left in the shaft above. The door panels, stacked like dominoes against the back wall, would be the first to go, dead by pine trees that would punch them into the earth as they toppled. The wires draping down from the holes in the 49's dashboard would hang like tinsel. The radio would play Rock of Ages, while the rocks up ahead groaned and settled slightly a little bit more. And the clock, the new one in the box that Chuck brought to replace the old one, would still be not ticking. Chuck flicked his cigarettes onto the gravel, ground with the heel of his boot, and turned to go back into the shop. He thought to himself as he heard the 2x4 crack, the one that he was using to prop open the overhead door after the chain busted. I need to fix that soon. He was staring at it, mesmerized as if it were a candle. He knew it was time to go to bed, that Dia should resume back to the pack and save, that his shy 6-year-old daughter Maureen would fall asleep on the sofa, that he would have to carry her to bed sleeping, that Uncle Wilby would be sitting on his back screen porch watching Chuck work on the car. Chuck thought to himself, now where did I put that sandpaper? He heard that crack again. He jerked. It sounded like a tree being hit by lightning. He looked above the roof of the house, the only place not canopied with trees, nothing but stars and a full moon. Then he heard it again. This time he leaned back to look up just in time to hear his neck crack as the overhead door slammed into the floor. This summer I was able to get a manuscript of poetry put together. Jim Selar, who was here a couple years ago, his partner is also a Minnesota poet, and he looked over my manuscript, and I'm very pleased to announce that there was very few things that he insisted I change. So I'm going to read some poems from that, and a couple that are brand new. This first one is dedicated to somebody who's not here. He is retired VSU faculty. He said to me once, I can't stand poetry. I don't understand it. He taught computers. It's titled, All Programs Degrade Over Time. By the way, he is a friend of mine. I'm watching his house while he and his wife are gallivanting around all over the United States. They have 1,500 miles yet to go. All programs degrade over time. He claims he cannot read poetry, not suffer its obtuseness, linear all he wants. A computer program with asterisks and ampersand, greater thans and less thans, all over the place. Black and white screening across the if-thans. Repeat the underscore that leads to a set, equals, colons, and dots, finding their way across a two-dimensional world. An infinitesimal divide in the mind. Control the issue, defy and conquer, eliminate those deviants that break down reason, break down sensibility, and switch, take nonsense and nothingness, and formulate mindless chatter to cross space and time, avoid the evasions of emotions. I gotta take some. My mouth gets dry and I get nervous. So I don't know where the water goes, so I don't understand. It gets dry in the middle of the night, too. Most of the poems in the collection deal with my parents, family, grandparents. And so I'm going to read one called Seeds, the things you plant. Seeds. My mother placed white envelopes of seeds in my hands, enfolding mine, hers. The seeds sealed tight so that none would escape. Hollyhocks, zinnias, pansies, labeled in script, elegant for the Legion Auxiliary, Rotary, Daughters of Job. All who begged her to ink their names on scrolls to be draped over podiums, framed under glass, displayed by massive oak doors, registers of names. I threw those seeds away. My life couldn't go for flowers. Such little skill then, but you should have been there when her hand was precious to see. She wrote so well, your mother. Old women and men would nod at me and shake their fingers. I see her letters in my mind throughout the day, written in ink and cursive, bread and butter letters, that detailed her day as I cursed that sleight of hand when I disavowed hers. The next poem's been published 3 times. The first time in Hurricane Alice magazine out of Minneapolis. The last time online, which is a pretty good online magazine. The second time in a print anthology called, I don't remember, it's out of South Dakota. The lesson. Someday my mother will not awaken from her sleep. I will not be there to hear her cough through the night and pass judgment upon this world with a curse of breath. I will be asleep in my own bed, dreaming of her and me and the days in the garden that once was. I will be struck dumb with heart when she dies. I will turn to my side and shudder in the darkness. My daughter will attend the funeral and be there in her black dress when grave receives her grandmother. She will monitor my response, judging this passing of grief for future reference. She will observe and memorize this transference, questioning its significance. I will not be able to see her through me. I will be the old one who will cough in the night and reach for flattened sheets while my daughter lies in her bed dreaming. I had a very colorful grandmother. My mother's mother was very, very colorful. She had to be. She was widowed when my mom was 14 and left her with 10 kids. And Grandma Hunter, Grandma Barnes, Grandma Hunter did almost everything in the world to feed those kids. She told the oldest ones to take the youngest ones, and she raised the middle ones. And that's true. My mother married when she was 16 to the hired hand who was 19. I'm going to say 13, but I think it was 19 years older than she was. But at least it was 13. I know it was quite a bit. And she took the youngest brother. And her husband died, Mom's 23, and I have a half sister. It's called a still, like things you drink whiskey out of. Whiskey, right? A still. My grandmother on my mother's side kept whiskey and beer, wine fermenting with balloons for corkscrews in her attic, the rumor passed down from uncle to niece, or heard in conversations by grandchildren, hiding under a table during poker or pinochle, but not through my mother's sealed lips. My grandma on the bootleg trail during Prohibition solicited favors of men, I was told by an aunt. Always a man in the house in Shelby, serving whiskey and what else to feed a passel of children left over after her husband's death. Another aunt on her last legs whispered to me that Grandpa died from alcohol poisoning, passed off with meningitis, found dead in the middle of winter, his fisted hands relaxed, his head bowed in a rocking chair before a blue still fire. On that night before the break of day, his ghost sat on my mother's side of the bed and jostled her awake. Mom said she heaved up and ran down the creaky stairs in that rotten old farmhouse on this early morn to rock her father awake. I wonder if at that moment he understood that the whippings he gave his children would never make them right. A bomb, like the explosion. I watched an A-bomb explode from the picture window in our clapboard farmhouse, obliterating the granary with its rats. Yellow and red mushrooms cascaded to the heavens. The rolling clouds thunders the session cracks my world. The farmyard between, desolate and brown like leftover gravy. In country school, I hid under an oak desk and learned a bomb exploded Hiroshima, a place that I had not yet pronounced in reverence. But that night, through the glass world, I saw the eruption fracture of the land asunder. The next morning, I threw back the white sheets, the crazy quilt, and stood barefoot on the living room floor, witnessed the maple leaves slapping against the pane, and realized the dream was mine. Like all mothers and daughters, they all have problematic relationships and never really know how much you love them until after they're gone. Same with mine. So this is dedicated to the problematic relationships we have with our mothers. It's called My Mother's Cracked Back. My mother whispered if I stepped in her shadow, my foot would sprout a giant banana squash. But I'd always rush after her and tease the back of her skirts with a pinch or a stick and stump on her shadow, a loud crack on the cement or a plop in dust. She was quick and crafty. Her heels tapped the ground like castanets. But I suspended her shadow in the air many times before she turned around and spit my name, her head and scowl. My dogged head hid my grin. I swayed back and forth, my hands behind my back, my fingers as steeples. When her shadow faded away from the sun and mine exploded in front of me, I put my thumb in my mouth and clonk, clonk, clonk on the sidewalk. Cracks didn't break her back. Neither did the name I called her. Most poems are true too, and this next one is true. I guarantee you. I don't know all the particulars, but it actually did happen. It's called Breast. Right? Breast, know what I'm talking about. I have to explain it to you. My father buried his grandmother's breast, tumor excised on a kitchen table by a hunched World War I Army surgeon. No hospital within horse distance. The doc chugged to them in a Model T. Removed, Grandpa thrust at my father squatting on the rickety porch in an enamel dishpan, a bloody breast floating like an eye. Ordered him to bury it in the garden, deep enough so the dogs couldn't fall.